What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. The conflict in Ukraine has taken a course that few anticipated. What was expected to be a swift invasion, so-called taking Kyiv in 3 days, has transformed into a prolonged and grinding war. Ukraine's resilience, enhanced by international support and modern weaponry, has not only stopped Russian advances, but has also reclaimed significant portions of occupied land. It most certainly came as a huge surprise to Putin, who thought that everything will be over in just a matter of days, weeks maximum. It was supposed to boost Putin's falling ratings, increase the patriotism and unity inside the country, right before the upcoming presidential elections, so that he could have won easily, maybe even not needing to rig the elections for the very first time in his career. But boy, he was wrong. As of today, Ukraine has regained more than half of the territory initially seized, leaving Russia with just under a fifth of Ukrainian land under its control. And as the conflict progresses, reports indicate that Russia is facing a staggering losses, on average up to 1,000 soldiers per day, who are puncturing their one-way tickets outside of Russia. This development raises critical questions about the strategies employed, the factors contributing to such high casualties, and the sustainability of this approach in the long term. So, guys, let's talk about those things one by one in today's video. The initial invasion plans counted on a rapid offensive that would quickly overwhelm the opposite defenses, allowing for a swift territorial gains. If it sounds too familiar to German Blitzkrieg in 1939, well guys, you're not alone. Putin knows his heroes well, and he tries to use the best of their strategies. However, Ukrainian forces displayed a level of resistance that exceeded Russian expectations. The initial advance reached the outskirts of Kyiv, but Ukrainian forces managed to repel the offensive, forcing Russian troops to regroup. This turnaround was not merely a stroke of luck, but a testament to Ukraine's strategic planning and determination. What's even more surprising is that they were able to come up with a perfect defense plan, call up the soldiers, equip and station them, and do all that in a record short period of time, while not having the Western support and weapons that they do right now. If a small, non-nuclear state can repel the attack of the second strongest military in the world, that country would be Ukraine. And if you think about it, Finland as well. We can't let Putin forget about Finland. As the time passes, the international support played a pivotal role in this defensive success. Countries around the world provided Ukraine with modern weapons, intelligence and financial aid, enhancing its military capabilities and enabling it to mount a more effective defense. The supply of advanced anti-tank weapons, drones and air defense systems leveled the playing field against Russia's larger military. Furthermore, international sanctions imposed on Russia aim to weaken its economic capacity to sustain prolonged military operations. Ukraine's unexpected resilience disrupted Russia's plans and set the stage for a prolonged conflict. The unity among Ukrainian citizens, with many volunteering for military service and participating in territorial defense units, increased the country's defense efforts even further. After all, protecting your own home from an obvious invader who you can see and hear is much different from attacking another country because some old man from TV told you that there are some bad people in the government. Very big difference here in the goals and morale of each side, which also, by the way, contributed a lot towards Russia losing hundreds of thousands of people. We'll talk about this particular aspect in more details very soon, guys, so stay tuned. But first, let's discuss incredibly ineffective, prehistoric even tactic that Russian military commanders are using in order to achieve their goals. Faced with unbreakable Ukrainian resistance, Russia resorted to tactics that have resulted in exceptionally high casualty rates among its soldiers. Reports from the Western intelligence agencies, including officials from the United Kingdom and the United States, suggest that Russia is losing on average around 1,000 soldiers per day. The number is so high, it is impossible to put 1,000 faces behind these statistics. Just for you to have an idea how massive the losses are, by the time you finish watching this video, estimatedly 10 Russian soldiers will remain forever in Ukraine. You go have dinner, and by the time you'll come back, 20 more will be added to the daily number. This surge in losses is because of Russia's strategy of direct assaults on well-fortified Ukrainian positions, commonly known as meat assaults. This term has been used by Russian soldiers themselves to describe this brutal approach where infantry units are sent into intense combat with high likelihoods of casualties. Such tactics have previously been employed in battles for cities like Avdiivka and Bakhmut, where Russia sustained heavy losses but ultimately captured the territories after prolonged engagements. In these instances, Russia relied on sheer numbers, sending wave after wave of troops to wear down Ukrainian defenses. It has even been mentioned by some captured Russian POWs that their commanders came up with even more horrible modification to even this strategy. They alternate the waves with inexperienced and professional soldiers. First, a group of amateurs who are afraid to fight, the sick and injured ones, or even conscripts who don't even know where they are. These are the ones who are sent with minimal protection or fire cover to assault the Ukrainian positions. Certainly more than 90% of them never return. And the worst part about all of this is that the Russian officers, they know it. They purposefully send such people in first waves, just to literally absorb Ukrainian bullets, exhausting their resources and people. And then, almost immediately, not giving much time for Ukrainians to prepare and regroup, they sent a group of veterans, who try to inflict as much damage as possible. The process is repeated until Ukrainians are forced to retreat or until there are no more soldiers to send into such assaults. But while Ukrainians irreversibly lose the territory, the Russians can always relocate more soldiers to desired areas. Now imagine the morale and willingness to fight of such Russian soldiers who know that they are being sent to just literally wear down Ukrainians. This approach reflects a historical pattern in Russian military strategy, dating back to conflicts where overwhelming force was used despite significant casualties. However, in the modern context, with advancements in military technology and real-time intelligence, such tactics result in disproportionate losses without guaranteeing strategic advances. The high casualty rates have raised concerns about the ethical implications of sacrificing large numbers for soldiers for very limited gains. Another significant issue is the use of poorly trained soldiers, including conscripts, reservists, and former convicts. What makes the situation even more hopeless for them is that they are often sent into combat with insufficient preparation and outdated equipment. But I guess it makes sense for the Russian officers who know that most of them will never return from these attacks. The mobilization of 300,000 people in September 2022 aimed to increase Russia's military strength, but led, in return, to a force comprised largely of individuals lacking the necessary training for modern warfare. After all, majority of these 300,000 were caught by the military enlistment office representatives and sent to Ukraine against their will. So obviously, this leads to an extremely low morale among troops, because those soldiers who are unwilling to participate in the conflict, they face severe penalties for refusal to fight or attempts to desert. The harsh disciplinary measures, including threats of imprisonment or execution, have created an atmosphere of fear rather than dedication. This lack of motivation undermines the effectiveness on the battlefield. Russia's reliance on wave tactics, where most soldiers can't make it through their attack, creates yet another problem, which is the psychological toll on soldiers witnessing high casualty rates among their comrades, knowing that sooner or later they will be the ones sent into a similar assault. Logistical challenges also play a critical role. Supplying and equipping a large force has led to reliance on antique military equipment, which is less effective against Ukraine's modernized defenses. Maintenance issues, shortages of spare parts, and inadequate medical support hinders even further operational capabilities. Additionally, communication breakdowns and lack of coordination among units contribute to tactical failures and increased vulnerability. The high rate of casualties raises questions about the long-term viability of Russia's current military strategy. While Russia has a larger population and theoretically a greater pool of potential soldiers compared to Ukraine, the continued loss of life on such a scale may have internal consequences. Domestic opinion could shift as the human cause becomes increasingly difficult to hide, potentially eroding support for the conflict. The potential for increased crime rates and social unrest upon return of Russian veterans possesses challenges for the society. Economically speaking, the prolonged conflict also depletes Russia's resources. The costs associated with sustaining military operations, combined with the impact of international sanctions, they weaken the nation's economic stability. Funding the war effort diverts resources from domestic needs, potentially leading to public dissatisfaction and protests. The economic downturn may also limit Russia's ability to produce advanced military technology and maintain its arsenal. And as soon as Putin's friends and oligarchs are forced to start paying out of their pockets, this is when we might see the unrest within Russian elite, which will be much more significant to the stability of Putin's regime. And then internationally speaking, sustained high casualties and aggressive tactics may impact Russia's standing and the willingness of other nations to support or oppose its actions. Allies may distance themselves to avoid association with perceived human rights violations and military aggression. Conversely, Ukraine's ongoing access to international support and modern weaponry enhances its defensive capabilities, potentially prolonging the conflict and increasing the costs for Russia. The war in Ukraine has evolved into a grueling conflict of attrition, defying initial expectations of a swift resolution. Russia's strategy, characterized by direct assaults and the utilization of large number of troops, has led to substantial casualties without yielding decisive results. The factors contributing to these losses, ranging from inadequate training and equipment to low morale and reliance on outdated tactics, highlight significant challenges within the Russian military approach. The sustainability of this strategy is uncertain. While Russia possesses significant human resources, the continued high casualty rates might not be tenable indefinitely. The potential for domestic discontent, economic pressures, and international isolation could compel a reassessment of tactics or objectives. The resilience and determination of Ukrainian forces, bolstered by international support, further complicate Russia's path to a conclusive victory. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for your attention. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed today's episode for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work, there are links down below, PayPal donations, Patreon subscriptions for additional content, and the full version of the outro song Ridiculous Russian Propaganda. And you can also buy the Russian Dude merch. All the links are down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you on Tuesday.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe in ridiculous Russian propaganda.